Hi, today's video is going to focus on 3 steps to planning your garden. Firstly, you need to pick what you want to grow. Now that's not always as straightforward as you might think. But you have to think about firstly your climate, when you can grow certain crops, but also what you think you might want to eat and harvest at what points in the year. For example, in the summertime, I want lots of lettuce and salad crops because that's the type of thing me and my family are going to be eating. However, in the winter time, maybe I want more things like carrots and turnips and crops like that. So think about that when you're planning your vegetables. Um, the second step is how we're going to create the plan, how we're going to lay it out. For this video, it's going to be on paper. How do I lay out a nice clear plan so that I can maximize the space that I've got? Thirdly, we're going to look at succession planting and how your plan is going to enable you to finish one crop and start another so that you get continuous harvest. And it's really important to plan because starting off seedlings takes a bit of time, 4 to 6 weeks before you can sort of plant out in your ground. So it's really important that we look at the timings and make sure we we take this into consideration. So step one in this tutorial is to start picking what you want to plant this season, this year. So grab your seed boxes. I have 2 chock full of seeds, and start looking at what seeds you've got, bearing in mind the date of some of these seeds. Some of these seeds might be quite old, and if they are probably more than, I'd say, 3 years old, I'd advise buying a new pack. The germination rate of old seedlings is notoriously poor, and it does diminish to 50, 40, 30% germination rates. Now, going through this, keep this really simple for yourself. I would write down what crops you want in the sort of spring, summer, and what crops you would like in the autumn, winter. Okay, so straight off the top of your head, things like you might want in the spring might be radishes. Summer, maybe you're going to want lots of lettuce. Autumn, you're going to want your squashes, your pumpkins, butternut squashes, etc. And in the winter, maybe you want Brussels sprouts. Now, each of those vegetables are very different, have very different needs. So find your seed packet, look at when the sowing date is and when the harvest date is, and start to create a list, a bit like the one I'm going to show here. And I'll put this on the screen so you can all have a good look. Okay, this here basically goes down in each month what I need to sow, and next to it is the harvest date. This is the first step in your planning. Just writing down all the vegetables that you're going to want to plant, what the sow date is, and what the harvest date is. So for step 2, which is creating your plan. So now you've got a list of vegetables and you know their sow dates and when they'll be ready for harvest. Bearing in mind this needs to be based on your climate. You can now start looking at writing the plan. Now, in order to do the plan, you need to know quite accurately how much space you've got. So I've got outside 2 8 by 4 foot raised beds. They're very deep, so I don't have to worry about depth. But that's a finite amount of space, and depending on what crops you're growing, they're going to take up different amounts of space. So you're going to have to start doing your research. But I would advise the square foot garden method with this one. It's really simple and easy. I know I've got 8 by 4, so 8 times 4 being 32. So I know I've got 32 feet to play with in each of my raised beds. Okay. Now I'm quite simple. I like to plan these things out in rows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the screen a few of my vegetable plans for each month. And I do them on paper, and they're very simple diagrams. Really easy to follow, and I know exactly where I'm putting things. And because I'm using the square foot method, I can measure a foot. I know I'm planting in this space, and it's really clear and easy. What I'll do now is I'll quickly show you outside my first bed all planted up, bearing in mind we are now just coming into April, and I've got one of my beds completely filled up. And I've planned in the succession planting, and we'll look at that in just a moment. So this here is one of my raised beds, and this one is fully planted up now. Everything is in there that's going to be in there until about June time, when I am then going to be harvesting and successionally planting different crops. So I'll just quickly take you through what I've got planted here to give you a feel of what you could have planted and already growing at the end of March, beginning of April. So down here I have 4 cauliflower plants. They're all year round variety and I had great success with them last year. Over here are some broad beans that I planted early on in January. Um, what's the variety? Super Agualadus. I think that's how you say it. Who knows? But you know, these have grown brilliantly and they've survived quite a bit of frost. We did have as low as -7 here in Wiltshire the other day, so it is really good to see that these are still growing and starting to tiller as well. Tillering is where there is a second shoot coming out at the base from the ground of the plant. In here, not doing that well, are beetroot, but these are starting to get their first true leaves now, so I think they are okay, but I might have put them out a little bit early in the year. You'll see interplanted with the broad beans are some radishes, multi-stone radishes, and over here I have a lot more radishes. Radishes are a great easy crop to start with, really easy to grow, and they're cold tolerant, and you'll get a lot of harvest from them. Next in line we have some rhubarb chard. The chard, again, a bit like the beetroots, might have been a bit early for them, but they're doing okay. And then finally, we have quite a nice variety of lettuce called Lola Rosa. It's a reddy green lettuce, as you can see. And again, I probably could have done with planting them a bit later. I've got one that I've kept in my mini greenhouse, which is doing far better than those ones out there in the vegetable patch. So I'll quickly take you over and just show you that a second, just for comparison. Here's the Lola Rosa that I kept in the greenhouse, and as you can see, it's quite a bit bigger than the ones in the ground, and it just kind of goes to show that, you know, planting this early, I think I was end of February when I planted out the lettuce, it probably could have done with staying in the greenhouse or indoors for a bit longer. The final step of this tutorial is really to look at succession planting and how we make sure we have those continual harvests all year round. Now, you've made that big list of everything you want to plant, and you'll see that generally lots of crops have the ability to be planted early on in the spring and harvest early to midsummer. And then after that, the ground is potentially bare and can start to be interplanted or planted up with other crops. So one example I've got here just to talk about is I've got radishes here. Now these radishes grow extremely quickly, and I got them in the ground about beginning of March, and they'll probably be ready really early on, maybe late May, June time. They'll be ready to harvest, and this ground will be bare. Now I've got a nice 1-foot strip there where I could plant carrots, or I could maybe do parsnips, or potentially I could get in my Brussels sprout plants as well, because those will have been sown and put in the greenhouse ready to come in. And this is where it's really important to have that nice clear plan so you know what you're planting and when. Hopefully you like that video on succession planting and how to plan your garden. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. This was my first video for YouTube, so if you've got any comments and any helpful advice, I really appreciate if you can leave it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and enjoy your day.